Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we could not be sharing these important stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Martine Resnick, and she is with the Lola. Welcome, Martine.
Hi, hey there. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I am excited to learn about the Lola. So how are you serving folks?
So we are a women's club and community here in Atlanta. We're based in Old Fourth Ward, right by Pond City Market. We have a members club that has workspaces, but also very community-based. So we do a lot of events and programming, mentorship, networking. We have a bar so people can come for cocktails in normal times. And our members are usually either in corporate. We have a good group of people in corporate, but we also have a lot of entrepreneurs, freelancers, independent contract workers as well using our space.
So what was the genesis of the idea?
I think I have been in corporate for 20 years. I have a co-founder as well. Her name is Eileen Lee, and we both come at it from a different place. But I've been in corporate for 20 years in pretty, fun, creative industries. But then I had 2 kids back to back, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is so broken. I can't do this anymore. And so was like, okay, what's next? And I figured that other women around me were also feeling some of the pressure and the strain. I'm working parents too, and realized that there had to be a better way. So it really came from that place of like a personal pain point and experience, and just realizing that we can work differently and think differently about how we work. So set out to build the Lola.
So it's one thing to have those thoughts and be frustrated by the current state of the way that things were before you had the Lola. But how did you find your co-founder, and how did this, kind of grow from an idea that sounds good and I wish there was something like this to actually, exist?
Of course. I think I made it sound very clean the way I described it. It was not clean at all.
It sounded very clean. It seemed like a weekend. It was a weekend project.
No, it was highly messy. It was a lot of up and down emotions, letting go of everything I'd known in terms of what my career was, my job was, my place in the world, and my kind of new role as a mom and a working mom, but also just wanting to do more in the world and get more kind of, satisfaction out of the work I was doing and feel like I was accomplishing something good. So it was probably a year or 2 process of coming to terms with that this wasn't working. I could have made that decision a lot quicker in hindsight. Next time I will. But then I think in that moment, I knew a couple things. I knew doing it on my own, I wasn't as interested in that because I just know I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My dad had his own business. Many of my grandparents and aunts and uncles had their own businesses, and I had seen firsthand what that was like. And I'm also just like to be collaborative, and working in a vacuum is sometimes creatively stifling. So I knew I wanted to do it with someone, and so actively was looking for that person. And, my dad told me 2 things in life. He's like, don't start your own business, and don't start your own business with someone else. And so anyway, I turned 40 and I was like, all right, that's nice, but that doesn't work for me. So I did both of those things. But yeah, I found Eileen through a friend. Actually, I was out talking to people, sharing the idea, realizing that finding a business partner who was in the right place at the right time and liked the idea was going to be challenging. But she had just moved from New York. She had started a nonprofit there before and had been in consulting before that. So a very different background to me. I'd very much been in consumer products and media and building brands. So the difference was great. And then she had moved to Atlanta for her husband's job, was pregnant, and was looking to start her next thing. So I think the stars just aligned for us. And it's been great. I don't think everyone is so lucky. I mean, we both believe in the idea and the mission. We bring this different skill set, but we also, are very dedicated to listening to each other and working together and working through any difficulties that do come with a partnership.
So now when you decided to come together and say, okay, we're going to take a swing at this, how did kind of the building blocks occur? Like, did you start kind of saying, okay, I need a space, or maybe we can do this virtually? Like, what were kind of some of the iterations of it before you landed on what you landed on?
Well, the original idea was we wanted physical space, but then there was the piece of raising money and how much that costs. And we were like, okay, this is going to take a minute, and initially we went out, we had our nice little deck put together with all our numbers and we're going to do this great thing and we're pitching people. But I think very quickly we realized that could be a circular conversation for a very long time. And then you hear of all the kind of things where it's harder for women to raise money. The money raised doesn't typically go to women and minority-led businesses. So I think we never saw, it wasn't acute or blatant, but there may have been some of that playing into it too. So we're like, okay, pivot. We started doing events for a year before we opened the space. And while we raised money at the Hotel Claremont, they had just revamped their space. There was this really great boutique hotel on Ponce de Leon Avenue. And the vibe felt very good for us. It was kind of what we imagined for our physical space to look and feel like. So we did maybe 100 events out of that. They were fantastic. They just opened. They really threw us a bone, let us in the door. And we hosted 100 events there every week. Some of them were cocktail events, some were yoga on the roof, some were kind of professional development classes. And over that year, we built up community. We built up some case studies to show investors that, hey, this is real. We have people engaged and interested. And then slowly we raised the money. But that, again, was not a pretty or clean experience by any means.
Now, was the money being raised, was that through traditional venture capitalists, or was it raised through friends, families, and family members and just kind of the super fans of the venture?
Yeah, it was. I learned a lot. I had not raised money in this way before, so I definitely learned a lot. And there are different stages. So there is seed and kind of this pre-seed stage, which is kind of where we were. So we hadn't really had a minimal viable product. We hadn't really got off the ground yet. So we're a little too early in the stage for venture capital firms. We did talk to some local ones like Golden Seeds and other kind of women focused ones, but they were like, that's great, but you tell us when you're open and we'll take a look at you for the next round. We're like, okay. So then it very much became a friends and family round. And that was a combination of true friends and family to people in our networks. I had lived in Atlanta for 10 years at the time. And so I had a bit of a network build up through my jobs here. And so it was people like that, a lot of first time investors, people that hadn't invested before. So, we had to kind of go through that education process a little bit with everyone too. And then we also raised money we had to get so scrappy and creative. We set up a founding partner board. So we realized as we were doing this, a lot of women had not had board experience and wanted to getting your first board seat was difficult. So we thought, maybe 5 or 6 women will prepay membership for 3 years and be on this board. And they can also be this great, strong contingency of women that can be at our side and advising us and working with us. And we ended up getting 25 people almost for that group. So we ended up raising a chunk of the money through that, which was really crazy and nothing we would have ever predicted.
It's funny. It was almost like that. What was that movie with Jimmy Stewart? It's a Wonderful Life. They all came together and they're all like, we want to be a part of this. I mean, that must have been at that point, that must have kind of mentally taken this to another level, right? Where you now have all these kind of people that are excited and invested as well.
Yeah, that has been honestly the magic of it for me. I think, coming out of corporate, I just saw a different side of Atlanta that honestly I had no idea existed, and saw it in such a different way. People are just so willing to help and lend a hand and just so gracious here. And I think the spirit of the community and that momentum behind us with all these people that had kind of joined, not only was helping us with raising money, but just even opening up the space and giving us support there. And we have a great team of community managers that, come in half a day a week each. And we couldn't have done it without the support of the community. So that has been a gift.
Yeah, I think that business owners around the country don't really appreciate that. In Atlanta, it's so collaborative and it's less cutthroat. There's less kind of zero-sum game thinking here, where everybody's trying to just kind of raise the tide for everybody so that everybody wins. I think it's special from an entrepreneur standpoint here in Atlanta. Is different than other markets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have the comparative experience, although my business partner does, because she started a nonprofit called Venture for America, and they opened up across cities in the US. And she said by far Atlanta was one of the most welcoming cities, and also just blew her away with like the powerhouse women here in the city. Just like we are floored daily with the people that are in our circle.
So now, how did the pandemic impact the growth of the Lola? Did anything change in terms of now some of what you offer is a space, some of it are events. So there's a lot of kind of personal face-to-face interacting going on. And then this has kind of put a damper on that. How did you kind of pivot and adjust to these times?
Oh my God. I mean, it blew, I mean, as everyone has kind of experienced, I think it blew everything out of the water and changed the rules of the games exponentially. I mean, we're a physical space. I mean, our model is built on in-person connection, community events, having a cocktail at the bar, sitting together in a class. So yeah, it definitely threw us through a loop. Thank you, technology. We're able to pivot pretty quickly. Everything we kind of did in the physical space online we've been using Zoom. And so all of our events now for the past 3 or 4 months have been virtual. And we do 3 or 4 or 5 of those a week, depending. And it's anything from, we had like a great, Ruby Vel is a singer here in town, and she did a live concert for us last week, which was fantastic. So we've been doing some fun stuff like that, and then like marketing workshops, SEO and things like that. Also how to like get loans and funds. But yeah, I mean, I think our content and programming shifted some because I think what people needed in that moment was different. I think especially in the beginning, it was like, okay, how do I survive working from home? And that shifted to how do I get the money that's available? And then I think I've seen, and us too, building our businesses to work in the digital space. So everyone has been craving classes on how to create content and how to, build a digital brand and all of that kind of stuff. So we've shifted in that way. It continues to be a challenge. We reopened last week our physical space, but of course, it looks incredibly different than what it did look like. And our members are we sent out a survey, and we definitely wanted to get a temperature check of what people were feeling. And some were ready to come back. Some were like, I cannot come back this year. I have health issues, or I just don't feel safe. But everyone that did want to come back wanted very high safety standards. So I think I know the CDC website like the back of my hand. But it's, you have to register for a spot. You book your spot in the space. People are 6 feet apart, wearing masks. We don't have food at the space anymore because that means taking off your mask. And then we're keeping all of our events virtual until it's safe for us to gather again. So yeah, it's interesting.
So now, are your members, are they hanging with you, or is this something that they're pausing as well? Or like, how are you kind of dealing with that side of the business?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think we do have seemingly a loyal fan base, which is fantastic. And, some people even reached out to us before their memberships were up for renewal and saying, I love you guys. We support you. Renew me. But then, there's the reality of people, jobs are being reduced or cut altogether. And it's just a very unknown time. So we know that even if they love us, they might not be able to stay with us. So we've definitely been very flexible. Actually, a lot of our memberships, our initial founding members, we're in renewals right now. And it's not churn in a good year isn't usually, can be tricky for a business like ours. But given the circumstances, it's actually better than I thought it was going to be, which is fantastic. And so, yeah, I think we're working with the people that need some flexibility. We're, being flexible with the people that just say, I can't right now, but we love you and I want to come back at some point. Some people are just churning for other reasons, like this wasn't for me, or, I've moved to another city or state. But yeah, it's challenging. And then we're also working to pivot digitally to be able to offer the people who can't come in more in that space. And then also attract other people that either don't live in Atlanta or in other states that might be interested in who we are.
Now, how would you describe kind of the ideal Lola member?
We struggled with this one. So, I have a marketing background, so it's always like your demos and putting your audience profiles together. And it was a tricky one because we have members as young as 25 and as old as 77. They're from different industries, backgrounds, races, countries. And that's for us the magic of it. Like that was what we intended this to be. We wanted to bring different kinds of women and community together because one, that's just a rich life experience. You can learn so much. And we felt like there weren't spaces doing that. And that was a gap in the market too. And just personally, that's the kind of space we wanted to be in and hang out in every day. So we call our members the perennials. And it was a term coined by Gina Pell. She writes a great newsletter called The What. And she, it's ever growing, ever blooming, never static, this kind of growth mindset. We have members. My mother-in-law is actually our oldest member. She's 77 and has 75 hobbies and different things going on. I'm like, I can't keep up with you. And so I think that's very much the mentality of our member. I'd say we have a lot of corporate expats who have jumped the ship. I'm one of those people who are like, I can't do this anymore, time out. And have gone freelance or started their own businesses or are consulting and trying to figure it out. So we have a lot of people in that kind of mid-career that are pivoting. And then we have a great group called our Encore Careers who are in their late 50s, 60s and are not ready to retire and hang up, their shoes, but also don't want to work, the breakneck pace they may have done for their entire careers. And so they get together once a month or so and kind of talk about anything from how do they get healthcare and work, or what are the jobs available, or how are they dealing with aging parents who need care and things like that. And then just helping some of the younger ones too with their business projects. So it's fantastic. I love our members so much.
Now, do you find that there's a movement afoot where people are saying, you know what, I want to do work that matters. I thought that when I started in my career that it was just kind of more and more and more, let me keep getting promoted. And that is what a career looks like. And then now people are, maybe because of the pandemic, especially, as they're taking a pause and going, okay, what's really going to get me up every morning and get fired up about doing some work that really has an impact on my community, on, me personally, something that I'm passionate about. Do you see that happening more and more?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yes, I think absolutely. And I think outside of the pandemic, that was happening already. People are just burnt out with, I think the way that corporate America has been built and set up, unfortunately, has been built on a model that really doesn't work anymore. I'm not sure. Well, maybe it did at one point, but it worked when, there was one person at home taking care of the whole family load and then one person going to work and the family kind of rallying around that person to get the job done. When you put two people in work, that just breaks things up in general. And I think that just starts to really show the cracks of this is not sustainable. So I think burnout is a big driver of why people are like, I cannot keep doing this. Because honestly, being in corporate is very comfortable in some ways. You get a paycheck, you have healthcare, you have a place to go every day. It's not your responsibility. Going out to start your own thing is not easy by any means. And also not the only option outside of corporate. There are many ways to come out of corporate and not just start something on your own. But I do think that burnout is real, and companies really do need to pay attention. People want flexible hours. It's not that they don't want to do the work. They just want to do it in a different way. So I think it's as much as doing something meaningful as also working in the way people want to work. And I think and coronavirus is this awful, terrible thing, but I think it's a big wake up call for all of us. Companies to say you can't keep doing this grind. We're not machines. You can't keep asking this of people. And then for people to say, oh my God, life when it's not so crazy is actually sweet, and I can get my work done, and I can also enjoy my life and my hobbies and my kids and whatever that is. So yeah, and also we've also got a lot of thinking time right now, and people are reading a lot and really soul searching of like, what am I really doing here? Like, do I really love this job? So yeah, I think it's a gift if we can take it that way.
Now, do you find that a person that is, maybe making that transition from corporate to not corporate, for lack of a better word, but now they're kind of untethered, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of comfort and maybe security or false security of being part of a big corporation. But one of the adjustments is that maybe they don't realize some of their status and their kind of identity was part of that larger organization. And when they're untethered from that, they lose some of that, and that becomes difficult for them to kind of process and deal with.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Absolutely. And I can say that I experienced that myself. I was very much tied. I'd worked at really fun companies, creative companies, big brands. And that was very much like who I was. In my social circles, where do you work? Oh, I work here. Oh, that's great. And so, yes, it's hard. And also the other thing that you don't realize a little bit when you come out of corporate is when you're out presenting yourself as a person in the business world. In corporate, your brand and the products and stuff that you're working on, when you come out and you're doing your own thing, even though there is an idea there, it's very much you. Like, people have to believe in you and your vision and your mission and the reasons why you're doing it. And you're very exposed in some ways because people then feel they can question that or ask, and in a good way. Like, if they're investing in you, they should be questioning that. But it definitely is exposing in a way I wasn't necessarily prepared for, and telling your story and speaking up and advocating for yourself and asking people to do favors and give you stuff. You have to get used to that pretty quickly. But also, I think when you can kind of let go of some of that, it's not as bad as, I think you get used to it, and actually it's not as bad as you think. But yeah, absolutely. But I'm a big fan of it. I haven't regretted it for one single day, even though there have been challenges on the other side. I would if people are feeling it, and don't ignore that feeling, I would say, go for it.
Now, when you're working in the space that you are, and you're building this really diverse kind of membership base and super fan base, how do you deal when there's kind of charged issues that are floating around, like this anti-racism, this social unrest? How do you kind of incorporate that or integrate that or listen to your members about that and kind of make it work?
Yeah, I mean, everything going on right now with the George Floyd and the anti-Blackness and anti-racism push is a difficult conversation for us on this particular one. It's something we lean heavily into. It was something that we were already kind of actively engaging in, even for the past year. We actually went through, and it's always been Eileen and my goal to have a diverse and inclusive space. But I think in building this community and opening the space, I'm learning more and more what that actually means and how much further we have to go. And it can't just be lipstick. It has to be much deeper than that. So we, I'll keep it short, but like redid all of our mission and our vision and our branding. And now we spell women with an X, because we want to signal that we're an inclusive organization. So our mission now is to bring women together as allies and accomplices, to tell our stories, raise our voices, and dismantle a system that doesn't serve us. And we really believe that. Like, I think, yes, we want to work on the business side of ourselves and be the best we can and survive in this business world. But also, I think our role in this world is to make a difference and make a change. We launched earlier this year a series called Uncomfortable Conversations, where we really wanted to bring the conversations that we felt needed to be had more into our space amongst our members so that we could truly see each other. And I do believe that, it's all tied together, and that we're only going to progress as women if we progress as all women. So in this moment when things happened and the riots started happening and that incident happened, particularly in the last few months, I think also within this kind of kindle of COVID and everyone's, already kind of feeling pressure and stress, it's really exploded. For us, it's an opportunity to lean into that conversation even harder, and we have been. We definitely wanted to address and listen and hear from our Black members in our community, but then also we have a lot of white and non-Black people of color in our community, and it's really up to us to dig into those things and really kind of figure out where our role is in racism and how we perpetuate that and how we're part of this bigger system, that it's not that we are as individuals racist necessarily, but we are part of this racist system which oppresses groups of people. And how can we be better? And how can we not perpetuate that? So we're doing a lot. We have a monthly newsletter written by one of our fantastic members and founding partner board members called Christy Gomez, and she writes the Porch Light, which really addresses and kind of goes after this. We bring it up in a lot of our other kind of communications. And then we have a lot of events and programming, whether it's on allyship or anti-Blackness or mental health around racism. And then we're also looking now, and this is like hot off the press because we are just kind of finalizing this, but we're also looking to really go another step and, start supporting nonprofits that do social justice work and individual entrepreneurs that are Black women, so that we can really put some dollars against this as well.
Well, this is the beauty of owning your own business, right? You get to make the rules and you get to kind of serve the people you want to serve. That's the power in this. Whereas if you work for a large corporation, sometimes you're a cog in the machine. You have a say, but you don't have the ultimate say.
I think I'd be losing my mind right now if I was trapped in the corporate environment and not able to kind of do, you would have to do it in your own life, but it's very freeing and highly rewarding.
So now, what can we do to help you? What do you need more of right now? Are you looking for more members? Do you need more funding? What do you need?
Yeah. So we've opened up our space, again. So obviously with all the safety precautions in place, and if you go to our website, you can see exactly what we're doing step by step. But we're also doing everything virtually as well. We're absolutely looking for, new members in the community to come and join us, check us out, and see who we are. And you can find us at the-lola.com. You can also see us on social media at the Lola_women. And our membership information is there, but please feel free to email us at hello@thelola.com. And we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, Martine, thank you so much for sharing your story, and congratulations on the success that you've had thus far.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio. And remember, we could not be doing this work without the support of our sponsor, OnPay. So please support them so we can continue to share these important stories.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.